and welcome to India Election Watch. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Let me repeat what you probably already know. All the 7 phases of polling are over. The exit polls are out. The numbers vary, but the verdict is unanimous. The NDA will be back in power. Narendra Modi will be Prime Minister again. But these, mind you, are just exit polls, not the final results. There's many a slip between the cup and the lip. Today we'll bring you the numbers and what they mean, the day's developments, who said what, who met whom, and how the political scene is heating up before the big day, that is the 23rd of May. Let's start with the numbers as they came in. The verdict for the 2019 battle looks sealed now. 3 days left for the results. On Sunday, the exit polls gave us some sense of which way the wind is blowing. Let's take a closer look at those numbers again. We'll decipher the exit polls for you. First, a quick recap of the figures. The India Today Axis My India poll gives the BJP a clear edge. They give a range, 339 to 365 seats for the NDA, 77 to 108 for the UPA, the others between 69 and 95. The Republic C voter survey gives the BJP and allies 287, Congress and allies 128, others 127 seats. News 18 and Ipsos also predict a clear win for the BJP in this election, 336 seats to the NDA, 82 for the UPA, 124 to others. The Times Now VMR survey gives 306 to the BJP and allies, 132 to the UPA, 104 to others. Another Republic poll with Jan Ki Baat gives 305 to the NDA, 124 to the UPA, 113 to others. The NewsX Net poll is among the few which have not given the BJP a full majority. They say the NDA is winning 242 seats, the UPA 164, others are at 135. The ABP Nielsen exit poll makes a similar prediction. The BJP and allies at 267, Congress and allies 127, others projected to win 148 seats. The India TV CNX poll gives the NDA 300 seats, the UPA 120, others 122, and finally News 24 and today's Chanakya predicting 350 seats to the NDA, the highest. Just 95 to Congress and allies, 97 to others. And by and large, there are 5 big takeaways from these exit polls, and here they are. First, 7 out of 9 give a clear majority to the NDA. Second, there is a wide variance in the projections for Uttar Pradesh and Bengal, 2 states where we've seen the numbers very different for each poll. Remember, these 2 are the battleground states in this election. The big takeaway number 3, it seems like the Congress failed to leverage its state election wins in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh. Number 4, this one from South India, the TRS is projected to sweep Telangana as expected. And the final takeaway, it's a mixed projection for Andhra Pradesh. Seems like a close fight between the TDP and YSR Congress of Jagan Reddy, if you go by the exit polls, that is. With me in the studio are our panelists, Andrew Whitehead, writer and senior journalist. We have Professor Makarand Paranjpe, director of the India Institute of Advanced Studies. We have Dr. Walter Anderson, former US official in the State Department, also author and academician, and Lord Meghnad Desai, author and professor emeritus at the London School of Economics. Good evening and welcome to all of you. We've had a few hours of break. I believe the numbers have you've had enough time for the numbers to sink in. Even though these are just exit polls, they're very, very significant figures and trends. Is this what you expected the result will look like?
I think we know the trend very clearly. Mamta Banerjee may not trust the exit polls, but the markets are putting their money on the exit polls, and I think that tells us a lot. I don't think there's any systemic fault in these polls, so I'm fairly confident they're giving us the direction of travel. Whether they're giving us the numbers quite right, I don't know. And the fact that there is such a variance about the seat breakup in Uttar Pradesh, in West Bengal, in Odisha, and also a lack of clarity about what's been happening in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu tells us that there's a lot of questions that won't be answered until Thursday. But I think we can say that the NDA will either have an overall majority or will be sufficiently close to it that they'll be able to get one quite easily.
Walter Anderson, do you believe that the pollsters failed to see a pro-incumbency wave? It was being touted as an election without a wave, but if these numbers are anything to go by, there was clearly a wave.
Well, I think to a certain extent they did, and as we were talking among ourselves, I think that's clear that if you looked at the polling prior to this, that even though they had the BJP in an advantageous position, it wasn't nearly as advantageous as these results seem to indicate. And it wasn't just the pollsters. I must say our fellow academics also didn't call it as accurately as apparently the results are going to be. So, and I've been getting emails all day from friends of mine in the United States saying, what happened? You know, because there was a certain surprise at the extent of the victory, and so they will be analyzed again, and I'm sure we will too, as to, you know, why the Indian public apparently turns so heavily to the BJP at this time, despite the fact the BJP has problems in its governance, which we can talk about. I mean, there are areas where it has to address, and in fact, the most interesting questions now is what next. Particularly, how will it handle, you know, assuming it's the BJP government, how is it going to handle the very real problems that it has faced the last couple of years? We often tend to forget about that in this kind of, you know, discussion of its victory, but it may be true, but the problems are still there.
Absolutely. The problems are there, and people seem to have, if these polls are anything to go by, given the BJP and Narendra Modi by extension, the benefit of doubt, and there's only so much that you can do in 5 years. That's what the BJP had started saying towards the end. When they came to power, they said, we are going to undo all the wrongs that happened under the Congress government. And towards the end of this 5-year term, they said 60 years versus 5, you know, you can only do so much. So was this more than anything else a referendum on the Prime Minister?
Definitely, it was. But what I found most amusing when I looked at the morning newspapers is how every single opposition leader has rubbished these polls. Even very intelligent people like Shashi Tharoor have come out to say that exit polls are all false. He said exit polls are all wrong. And I find that really surprising. The other most amusing thing that I found is that all these opposition leaders want to gather together and ask for a recount or asking for, you know, these electronic voting machines to be re-examined. But here's the most curious stupidity on their part, which is exit polls have nothing to do with EVMs, with electronic voting machines. I mean, there's absolutely no relation between one and the other. So it seems to me that there is this sense that all these opposition leaders are really bad losers. And another very surprising remark that came out this morning was from my friend Yogendra Yadav, where he said the Congress should die. Did you see that? So this is a time of bizarre comments and allegations, you know, flying in the face of all sorts of reason. But another interesting thing I found in the morning was that Ram Madhavji predicted a huge wave in Bengal for the BJP. He said it's going to be like UP last time. It's much more than the exit polls have predicted. So I think these three things for me stood out. And of course it's a referendum, to come back to your question, sorry. Of course it's a referendum for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it's a thumping yes. And as you know, we heard earlier, the stock market says it all. It's at an all-time high, over 14,000 points higher, 14,200 or something.
You know, businesses are loyal only to the bottom line.
No, even so, it means it's a resounding, you know, approval for the, you know,
for the fact that this is going to be a stable government. If it's a clear majority, then it will be a stable government. To that
you can't
extent,
take it lightly. It's an all-time high.
Indeed. I think others are also looking at which way India has voted and taking lessons. So we were talking about iftar politics in Pakistan and all opposition parties coming together at Bilawal Bhutto's residence because they want to take on the ruling dispensation as one force. Opposition in India is also still, the likes of Chandrababu Naidu, still making their moves. But do you believe that those who rubbish the exit polls have a point because all is not lost?
As an active politician, I have had to do this. When your party is facing defeat, but you're not actually finished all counting, you go on saying, no, you know, wait till that region votes or wait till that result comes out. Because you have nothing else to say. You can't say, oh, you know, we've lost, you know. What's the point of going on? So that's partly a political game. You know, and the interesting thing would be there is this persistent thing about the 2004 exit poll, which somehow got it wrong. So people always point this out. But is the performance of exit polls improving over time? We will know on Thursday. That's an important thing. But I suspect the one thing we would want to look at is whether Congress has played a spoiler in UP. Has the Gathbandhan got fewer seats? If BJP has got half the seats, or maybe more than half the seats, then the Gathbandhan may have lost by a very small margin in many of the seats BJP won because Congress has taken votes away. And that would be very interesting to see whether some of the result, I don't think it would have affected the overall result, but had Congress stuck to the Mahagathbandhan, which it did not, BJP may have been more nervous.
You know,
but it was not because it broke it.
So much has been said about UP and Bengal, and these, as we said, are the battleground states, and the exit poll numbers vary. You know, in UP, there's a difference of 40 seats. Irrespective of Bengal and UP, the BJP is anyway in the lead if you look at all the other states where it has swept. So does it really matter?
The UP case, I think, is interesting. A point I had made yesterday, the two major opposition parties in this alliance represent different parts of the social scheme in UP, and that have historically been at each other's throats. The Bahujan Samaj Party represents Dalits and people without land, and the Samajwadi represents the peasant farmer. So one group has the land that the other one wants, and that has been, you know, a cause of fighting. And I'd be curious to see how much transferability there was, looking at the results and compare them with the two parties' results last time. Do they add up? In other words, if you got 10% and 15% last time, does it add up to 25% this time? I have a guess it does not, because they did not perform as well as I thought they were going to. With the numbers of the communities, they actually should have done much better.
But what there's no doubt about is that Samajwadi and the BSP have done better together than they would have done apart by quite a long way. And the message from the BJP's clear dominance of politics is if opposition parties want to make an impact, they absolutely have to join forces before elections. And I think they've actually got to come together and say, if we win, this is who we're going to have as our Prime Minister. That's what the opposition parties have failed to do, and it gave Narendra Modi a lot of space.
So is the only opposition success story, according to the exit polls, the Gathbandhan in Uttar Pradesh?
Well, we don't know how successful that's been, but certainly it's a success story compared to the state elections in UP and compared to 2014. But there have been others, so it looks as if the DMK has done very well in Tamil Nadu. But there have been some catastrophic disasters, and I think particularly of what seems to have happened in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh and perhaps Chhattisgarh as well. Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh very evenly balanced in the state elections 6 months ago, but with the Congress having all the patronage which comes with forming a state government, and the BJP, one assumes, demoralised by those defeats, and then 6 months later it seems as if the BJP sweeps both those states. That seems to be a tremendous vote of no confidence in the, to be blunt about it, Congress old-timers who were appointed as chief ministers in those two states.
Right. Are there any states which surprise you? Odisha, for instance, the BJP's cadre base is not so big for them to win, and if they're winning the number of seats that the exit polls say they are, then it seems they're winning some coastal seats as well, where the party is not very strong. Or Maharashtra, for instance, a huge chunk out of 48 was...
Absolutely. You know, but I think what Andrew said made a lot of sense, that the opposition, to survive, will have to come up with new formulae. Even if they're fighting each other for the, assembly elections, they'll have to come together for the Lok Sabha elections in the future. And this will also confuse voters, but they will have to find new weaponry, as it were, to hit back against this formidable arsenal of the BJP. And when it comes to surprises, I think that Chandrababu Naidu, it's kind of half and half there, but there are polls which suggest that he's losing in his own state. Exactly. So where is he going to be a kingmaker trying to put everybody else together? And I also think that, it's really a very challenging period for state assembly party, people who are ruling the states with a flimsy majority, like Madhya Pradesh or Karnataka. I think we're going to see these governments, under a lot of stress unless they're actually going to fall. I think this is what's going to happen in the next few days.
The stress injections have begun already. We'll discuss Madhya Pradesh in detail in a bit. But let's take a look at today's developments. 3 days to go for the results. The exit polls are a booster shot for a confident BJP? The opposition parties are putting up a brave face before the results. Behind the scenes, all parties are engaged in intense political activity. Here's what's happening. Before the counting of votes, the Congress received a shock. The BJP says the Madhya Pradesh government is in minority. The BJP wants a trust vote. We'll discuss that in detail. Suffice to say, the Kamalnath government is on tricky terrain right now. Meanwhile, the BJP is keeping its allies in good humour. Party President Amit Shah will have dinner with allies tomorrow. Reports say that he will host them at Delhi's Ashoka Hotel. He is expected to discuss post-poll strategy with party leaders from the National Democratic Alliance. The Congress camp is not far behind. They too are trying to keep their flock together just in case. In fact, the moves began well before the exit poll figures dampened spirits. Before the final phase of polling, Sonia Gandhi had reached out to her UPA allies. The UPA chairperson wanted to have a meeting of all of them on result day. That's the 23rd of May. There were reports that BSP chief Mayawati was supposed to meet Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi today, but those reports have been dismissed by the BSP today. Others in the opposition refuse to be deterred by the exit poll numbers. We've been talking about Chandrababu Naidu. Mamata Banerjee calls exit polls gossip. Chandrababu Naidu is her comrade in arms, it seems, working overtime to stitch a coalition. He's met Rahul Gandhi twice. He's met Sonia Gandhi as well. He continues to hold talks with Mayawati and Akhilesh Yadav. Today he landed in Kolkata. He met Mamata Banerjee. It's clear an attempt to build an opposition alliance is underway. But is anyone listening to Chandrababu Naidu? That is something we cannot confirm, I'm afraid. Arun Jaitley has penned a new blog. It's called The Message of Exit Polls. The finance minister feels that the result will not be too far away from the exit poll figures. Here's what he said, and I quote, "If the exit polls are read along with the 2014 election results, it would be clear that there is a huge maturing of Indian democracy taking place. The electorate keeps national interest paramount before exercising a choice of whom to vote for. When people with similar ideas vote in the same direction, it leads to the making of a wave." Jaitley also slammed the opposition for questioning the EVMs. He called it a fake issue. So it's been an interesting day, as you can tell. I want to first of all understand what Chandrababu Naidu is up to.
Can I just mention something that Arun Jaitley said in his blog? Because he also had a dig at the Congress party, but I thought a very effective dig. He said, in the Congress, the first family is no longer an asset, but an albatross around the neck of the party. Without the family, they don't get the crowd. With it, they don't get the votes. Now, you know, he's talking about a rival party, but it struck me as a fairly acute comment. As for Chandrababu Naidu, I mean, the electoral timetable here is desperately unkind to party leaders who've suffered a setback as far as the exit polls are concerned, because they have 4 days in limbo where they don't absolutely know for certain whether the exit polls are fully accurate, and they have to try and pretend it's business as usual while basically realising that their political careers have hit a roadblock of sorts. What's Chandrababu Naidu up to? I think he's just going ahead with his diary as planned. There's no particular harm having these conversations. What exactly he's going to get from Mamta, I'm not quite sure, apart from earache, but nevertheless.
I'll tell you what
But not just exit polls, even opinion polls never said that Chandrababu Naidu was going to win very big. Everyone said that Jagan Reddy has the momentum. Yeah. So for Chandrababu Naidu to dismiss the opinion polls and now the exit polls as well, given the way he's going, he seems to have something up his sleeve, would you say?
I think Chandrababu Naidu is basically trying to divert attention from his own result by being very active. But one of the things about this group of opposition people is that many of them have been part of NDA sometime in the past. Yeah. I mean, they really are not anti-BJP as such, because they've all been in there, got a, what used to be called an ATM ministry, and now of course, with Narendra Modi, there are no ATM ministries left. So that makes life very difficult. But there is no matter of principle or ideology at stake in these people getting together, just numbers. And they're hoping somehow the numbers may fall their way, but it's not going to.
Well, Chandrababu Naidu says that NDA will get less than 200. That's what he's been saying. And therefore, there's a huge possibility of a third front materializing. That's his official statement.
Even if that were to be the case, what would his role be? I want to understand.
Well, I think his role in his own state has diminished, so he's looking for another kind of role as a stitcher together, of an unwieldy alliance. But I think there's something else going on. I think people are sussing each other out. They want to see what they think is going to happen, and also looking for some way to wriggle out and realign with the BJP as junior partners. I mean, I think Chandrasekhar Rao and his party has been rather quiet this time. You know, they aren't hopping onto this, meetings bandwagon. And going back to what Mr. Jaitley said, I think another very important point is the maturing of the Indian voter. If that is truly the case, then what Andrew suggested earlier may well work, which is that when they need to, they can rise above caste and other such considerations. And when they don't need to, they can vote for their own community and their smaller leaders and parties. So this sort of flexibility in voter behavior is really a sign of the maturing of the Indian voter, I think. And another thing that I thought is that our elections are so hard fought and, so expensive, $9 billion. But I think when democracy really matures in India, people will go out and vote without so much fuss based on merit, and maybe there'll be some electronic means so that you don't have to, mount this huge drama.
Like Estonia, you can vote from your laptop.
Something. I'm thinking about 20 years down the road, and, basically the scope for jumlas, for these wild promises will decrease, and poverty, if it comes down to about less than 10%, which I think is inevitable with decent governance, then I think there's going to be a huge shift in Indian democracy. These larger-than-life leaders, huge cutouts, all this drama may also make us less interesting. But, another point I felt this morning, I was looking at all the newspapers, how the Western press got it completely wrong. And they're still in denial. I find that incredible, They're still going on with the divisive theme. There was one story about a husband and wife fought so badly over Narendra Modi. I mean, what have they come down to? Are they completely incapable? No. I mean, I don't want to name these hugely famous houses, but each one of them, I mean, not one called the election properly or even understood, it seems to me, the pulse of the people. I find that...
I understand. So last December, I was in Armenia. And this was just before the election day. And I met the president and I said, I cannot tell that your country is going to an election because there were no hoardings, there were no posters. The entire campaign was on Facebook. But I think that day is far for India. What I want to ask you is that do you think there will be a recalibration in the approach of all these leaders? For the BSP to wait till the last moment and say, no, we never had a meeting with Sonia and Rahul Gandhi. What does that tell you? That they're not ready to...
Well, the interesting thing, for those of us who've been involved in negotiations in the past, this is not unusual. As part of the negotiating process, you keep all your options open. And it's not only Indian electorate, Indian parties have kept all their options open. That's what we're seeing today. This whole argument that the exit polls are all wrong, that's part of a strategy that they're using with each other. They want to be able to sort of talk to each other that we're still relevant and there's still options we have. If I had to guess, they're also talking to the BJP as well. And they are talking to them. In fact, there was an article in one of the newspapers today from some BJP figures saying we need to sort of reach out to the opposition. Of course, that's no new news. I'm sure they are reaching out to the opposition in case they need to sort of to lure them over for one reason or the other. That's what's happening today. Today is a day of strategy. Right. Each of the various groups, and I think this is one of the strengths of Indian politics, that you have this flexibility and that's not going to stop. It's just like expenses. Indian elections are the most expensive in the world. It's often more expensive than the U.S.
They are.
It's often forgotten, and the trend is not going to stop. The trend is going to continue. As India gets more prosperous, has more money, politics are going to stay competitive, and people are going to spend lots of money because there are all sorts of avenues to spend money, in social media, on the hoardings, TV. You can just keep going and going, the opportunities to
Talking
spend
about money, we have some ads pending, so I have to take a short break. We'll be right back. We'll discuss Madhya Pradesh and surgical strikes as well. Do stay with us. Election Watch. We're looking at today's developments and also the exit poll results, which all give the NDA a clear majority. Here's the first fallout of those results, it seems. Within hours of the BJP's predicted win, the party is hot on the heels of the Congress government in Madhya Pradesh. This is what happened today. Madhya Pradesh BJP says the Congress government under Kamal Nath is a minority government. The BJP says it will ask the governor, Anandiben Patel, to convene a special session. They want to test the strength of the Congress government.
ये कांग्रेस पार्टी को सूचना जिसकी सरकार यदि मॉरली वो देखती है कि उसके वोट प्रतिशत में काफी अंतर आया और अधिकांश सीटों पर उसके उम्मीदवार हार गए हैं, तो यदि वो चाहे तो नैतिक रूप से इस्तीफा दे दे। अब ये तो सरकार को साबित करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि अभी कोई ऐसा विषय सामने नहीं आया जिसमें सरकार का बहुमत साबित हो। नहीं, अध्यक्ष उपाध्यक्ष के चुनाव में हम लोगों ने बायकॉट किया था, आपको जानकारी होगी, बायकॉट किया था। प्रक्रिया जो थी इतनी दोषपूर्ण थी, उसके बारे में हम सभी लोगों ने, तो इस कारण से मैं मान के चलता हूं कि जब हमने वॉकआउट कर दिया तो फिर डिवीजन का सवाल नहीं पैदा होता है। हम तो लोकहित में लड़ेंगे, हम सत्ता के लिए नहीं लड़ेंगे। लोकहित में यदि सरकार जाती है तो चली जाए, क्या करोगे।
The BJP disputes the farm loan waiver offered by the Kamal Nath government. It accuses the Congress of skirting several key issues. The outcome of this will depend on the numbers, and here's how they stand. Last year's assembly elections threw up a fractured mandate in Madhya Pradesh. The Congress won 114 out of 230 seats. The BJP got 109. The magic figure was 116. Mayawati's Bahujan Samaj Party has 2 seats. Samajwadi Party has 1 seat. 4 independent candidates were elected to this assembly. The Congress has formed the government in Madhya Pradesh with support from the BSP and SP. That's why the timing of this development is also important. If the exit polls are indeed correct, then the BJP will retain power at the centre. Several legislators of the Congress may decide to jump ship. Besides, the bitter campaign highlighted the differences between these parties which are in alliance. If things do not go right for the Congress party, it may not enjoy the support of the BSP and SP, and that's what the BJP is counting on. Though the political landscape of Madhya Pradesh has come alive after exit polls, this was always waiting to happen. Last month, a BSP MLA joined the Congress. Mayawati was very upset with the Congress party for poaching her legislator. At the time, she had said that she will reconsider her party's support to the Congress, but Kamal Nath jumped in to save the day for his government and his party. Now, the BJP is making an aggressive pitch to come back to power in MP. It doesn't help that the Congress is a divided house in that state. Leaders like Jyotiraditya Scindia and Digvijay Singh only campaigned in their home constituencies in this Lok Sabha election. The state's chief ministership was hotly contested between Kamal Nath and Scindia. The exit polls indicated that this factionalism may have worked against the Congress party in the state. The Congress can hope to remain in power if it proves the exit polls wrong and wins a majority chunk in Madhya Pradesh, else party leaders and allies will slip away. What do you make of the timing of what is happening in MP so soon after the exit polls?
It's a sign of what's to come. An ascendant BJP is throwing its weight and perhaps its money around. MP, of course, was unusual in as much the BJP got a slightly greater share of the popular vote in the state elections in November, December, but won a fewer seats. It now seems to have found a way of making up the numbers. I wonder how. We don't yet know who might be crossing the floor. But I think this is going to be a sign which will terrify Congress, because you could see this potentially happening in other states as well. So really very worrying. But then Congress has made its problems more acute. Rahul Gandhi was talking repeatedly about making space within the party for a new generation, and yet when they won Madhya Pradesh,
he was talking about himself only.
No, it does seem that may be what he meant. It was code for himself, but I think most people assumed that there was a cohort of people who would start to get really top jobs. And then in Madhya Pradesh, Kamal Nath was chosen. I don't think that was with a view to the future. And it may be that's been an expensive decision.
One of the calculations is that the old hands know how to raise money for an election, which is why the Kamal Naths and the Gehlots of the world were installed as chief ministers. Whatever the calculation may have been, do you think they should have waited at least till Thursday to make this move, the BJP?
They could have waited, but this was in the offing, you know. Even after the assembly elections were won, as you said, by a very slim margin by the Congress, they're only 5 seats ahead, I think, 5 or 6. Moves had already started, you know, to destabilize that government. Kamal Nath is an old fox, you know, he knows how to manage things. So BJP sort of stepped back after they failed in Karnataka. But this was always going to happen because this is sweet revenge for Shivraj Singh Chauhan, who's very popular, Mamaji, in Madhya Pradesh. And those who know Madhya Pradesh 20, 25 years ago, there's a sea change. People didn't have electricity for more than an hour or so. There were no proper roads, So he's been a very popular as well as successful chief minister. But the local candidates, the candidates chosen for the assembly were very unpopular. Almost 80, 90 of them were not considered winnable. And I think the mistake BJP made was to field a lot of them. So I think what's going to happen is that they're definitely going to try to bring the Congress government down. How they'll do it, we don't know. But it's not that difficult. If 3 or 4 people defect, Congress will no longer have the majority. And this will be sweet revenge. And I think that this was always, in the offing. It was only a matter of time. And I think they will wait till the actual results come out. And they will consider the Lok Sabha thing to be a mandate if they really win. Saying, look, you lost your legitimacy now in the assembly because we've got so many seats, people don't like you. They'll use that argument, I'm just saying. And they're going to try to bring this government down.
You were saying, Lord Desai, that the opposition doesn't matter. I think that's what the Modi-Shah combo also believes. They're not content with wins. They want everything. Even a Vajpayee worked with an opposition, but these guys only talk about Congress Mukt. They do not want anyone in the opposition. And this you think this is a sign of things to come?
The BJP, the Congress is behaving in a very peculiar way. Because when you think of Madhya Pradesh, one of the reasons, and Mayawati already had said before the voting, that she was not happy with the way Congress was cutting into the votes in the UP. And if it turns out that Congress had really hurt the BSP will withdraw support from the Congress in Madhya Pradesh and bring down the government.
2 or 3 now. One is defected.
I was saying opposition doesn't matter because if you look at it from the outside world point of view, outside politics point of view, India has been handed a fantastic prize of 5 years of responsible, strong government.
But you need a strong opposition to keep a strong government in check.
Sorry?
You need a strong opposition to keep a strong government in check.
No. For economic progress and for good development, opposition is all right, but not necessary. But opposition is good for keeping democracy alive, keeping diversity there. But if you want to have long-run policy planning, infrastructure building, clean India, health, Ayushman. For those things, you need a guarantee that 5 years the same people are going to be in power.
Absolutely.
And they will be able to achieve the goal of, for example, if we had healthcare, if we had universal healthcare in India, that would put India far ahead of any of the emerging nations.
But
and only India has a scheme like that.
Right.
State elections.
So that is what I meant by saying opposition doesn't matter. If you want to consider about the growth in India, welfare in India, it's what the government is going to do, which is crucial.
But what they're trying to do in Madhya Pradesh specifically, A, do you think they can pull it off? And B, do you think that they should have, the timing could have been better?
Probably so, but there's kind of enthusiasm now to act. And beside that, they have the governor. And so when you have the governor on your side, and you probably have groups within the Congress who are negotiating.
The governor, by the way, is not supposed to be technically on your side.
We all know, in fact, that governors do get involved in that. That's part of the real world. The other part of the real world is you talk about politics. Now, the Congress Party may be declining, but not the regional parties. The regional parties still get about 1/2 the vote. And that's been true for several elections now, versus the 2 national parties, the Congress and the BJP. And that's going to continue. And that's where the BJP has got to relate to parties at the state level. It's got to relate to parties who are strong regional parties. For example, at West Bengal and several of the southern states. And that's the BJP problem, is, they talk about cooperative federalism in their manifesto, and that there'll be some kind of linkage between the two. But they've allowed in many of their states to operate in a very corrupt manner. And have been very inefficient in economic delivery. So the center has got to sort of somehow work out a system to have improved delivery of services and less corruption. You have right now what you have in many of the BJP states is you have inefficient government and a high level of corruption. And in fact, that also plays in the public mind, because you may not have the corruption at the top levels like you had in the last administration, but you have petty corruption at a massive level.
Right.
Talk to any businessman who has to operate and how they have to deal with the bureaucracy. The bureaucracy now has enormous freedom to do what it wants to get money. And one only has to be in business to know that.
Well, I mean, I think this is a different topic. Like federalism is a totally different topic. But I think...
You know what happens in Madhya Pradesh? The
Well,
likes of
next-
Mamata Banerjee will say, look, this is what I was talking about. It's already started
next
happening.
is going to be Karnataka. You're not
Or,
talking about
or
that.
West Bengal?
Kumaraswamy, you know,
West
Deve
Bengal?
Gowda is very unhappy with the Congress. He's even publicly wept at the humiliation that he experiences on a daily basis.
Yeah, the
He
whole
weeps
family,
quite a
it
lot.
runs in the family.
He's a good tearjerker, but that's not
All
the
of
point.
them.
I'm saying that's going to be on the crosshairs next. It's going to be Karnataka after Madhya Pradesh.
But, you know, we talk about the maturing of democracy, which actually means our side has won again, usually, for the people
Yes.
who are using that phrase. But I wonder whether it is a maturing of democracy when we are basically going to have one nationwide party.
Yes.
Once upon a time, there were three. There was BJP, Congress, and the Communists had at least a claim. Now we've got, well, we don't quite know where we're going to be, of course, on Thursday, but the Congress is going to be a little bit threadbare in an awful lot of the country. And that really makes me quite concerned
This is
about
not
the,
unique.
Until these
the
assembly
vigor of
wins,
India's
there was a
democracy.
time when the map of India, if you looked at the states which were being ruled by either party, a huge chunk of India looked saffron.
Absolutely.
And-
No, I completely agree that the nature of government in India is set to change in a radical way. It's going to be the dominance of a single party, which means the onus on them not to go the authoritarian way or not to, you know, ride roughshod over all the other parties, the smaller parties. That onus increases enormously to behave responsibly, generously,
Right.
and to protect India's federalism. I think these are going to be the challenges of governance, you know, which counterbalance the advantages that you mentioned, which is economic progress.
When Congress was strong, it did not treat provinces very well. I mean, look at the Kerala communist government. Congress went out of its way to get a popularly elected government dismissed because of all kinds of chicanery.
Yeah, but two wrongs
When I
don't make a
remember
right.
At that time.
That's where
Two
the
wrongs
issue
don't
They're
make a right.
not good. They're not good.
Right, we're told that Kamal Nath has made a statement. We'll get it shortly. We're trying to make a point.
That's where the issue of federalism comes in, because the Congress, you're right, ran roughshod. And the interesting thing about Madhya Pradesh and the issue of federalism is, how is this government, the central government, going to react to making a change in the government in Madhya Pradesh? Is it going to run roughshod or not? The temptation is going to be enormous to do so. And you'll find it in Karnataka is going to be hot on the heels of that, because Karnataka in some ways structurally is more prone to division. You have two parties in which the smaller of the party actually has a dominant position in the state. I'm sure the BJP is going to sort of try to make use of that.
They tried very hard just after the
Yes,
assembly
I'm
election.
sure. You know, they're going to
And they
continue to do
failed.
it.
They failed, and that didn't reflect very well on them either.
Exactly, because in a way, that's what I'm saying. They botched it up in Karnataka. They didn't want to repeat that mistake in Madhya Pradesh. So in Madhya Pradesh, they waited. They're biding their time. And you should have seen Shivraj Singh Chauhan's, when he conceded defeat, he was so gracious, and he said, politics mein unch neech to rehti hai.
Yes.
Hum log intezar karna bhi jante hain. I mean, he spoke like a great statesman, but it seemed to me that they were holding their cards and they're going to act when the time comes. And this time they're going to do it properly. It won't be a botched operation, And of course, Kamal Nath is a formidable adversary because he has access, as is reported, to tons and tons of money. And I think that money matters in India hugely. I don't think the states are corrupt the way you said they are. But, I mean, in fact, with Modi and with BJP, the role of the fixers and the middlemen has really shrunk, if not evaporated.
Right. I think Kamal Nath's statement is in, and he has said that the BJP has been trying since day one. They've been trying this, and he says, I've proved majority at least 4 times in the House in 5 months. I will do it again if they want me to prove majority. This is what he said.
तो पहले भी कर रहे थे, पहले दिन से कर रहे थे, पिछले 5 महीनों में 4 दफे हमने अपनी बहुमत सिद्ध करी है। अध्यक्ष के चुनाव में, उपाध्यक्ष विधानसभा उपाध्यक्ष के चुनाव में, सप्लीमेंट्री ग्रांट्स के समय, बजट के समय जो हम बजट लाए, 4 दफे तो कर दी, ये फिर से चाहते हैं, हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
Do you believe that factionalism in the Congress party is going to hurt his chances sooner rather than later?
I mean, Madhya Pradesh, the Congress party is clearly a divided house, and it can't help. Whether people will cross the floor all the way to the BJP, I don't know, but the BJP must have some reason for saying that they would win a floor test, and Kamal Nath has got no option but to agree to go along with it. What else can he say? I mean, I think if you're a member of a party which has had a second severe drubbing at national level, your morale is low, you're wondering what on earth your future is in that party, you are often very tempted by the blandishments which the governing party at the national level can offer. But what Makarand was saying there was basically you're saying that the BJP needs to show strategic restraint in its dealing with other parties and smaller parties. I don't get the sense that that's what Amit Shah's BJP is about.
No, I didn't say that. I'm saying that the challenge of federalism will require the BJP at times not to bulldoze its will onto everybody else.
They will have to learn to do that, is what we're saying.
That's right. But no quarter will be given when it comes to, Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka, and I'm sure Congress would have done the same. So we're not mixing up these two things. They're going to go for the jugular in Madhya Pradesh and Karnataka, no doubt about it.
I think we'll see more of this if the Congress indeed loses this election. When the Rajasthan election results came out and the oath-taking ceremony of Ashok Gehlot was being organized, reporters on the ground said that we saw people making 2 sets of arrangements. Mr. Gehlot came in and he said we need to do this, and then Sachin Pilot came and said we need to do this.
Yeah.
So more indiscipline will be on display, I think, if the Congress loses. But as we said, polling may be over, politicking never is. And so surgical strikes are also back in the headlines. Today, Lieutenant General Ranbir Singh, Commander-in-Chief of the Indian Army's Northern Command, confirmed that the first surgical strike carried out by India was on the 29th of September 2016, meaning the first surgical strike happened under the Modi government. That's what he says.
डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ मिलिट्री ऑपरेशंस ने चंद एक दिन पहले ही एक आरटीआई के जवाब में बताया है कि ये पहली सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक सितंबर 2016 के अंदर हुई है। इसके अलावा पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज किस प्रकार से अपना बयान देती हैं, मैं पॉलिटिकल बातचीत के अंदर नहीं जाना चाहता हूं, लेकिन उनका अपना बयान सरकार की द्वारा उनको कोई ना कोई जवाब जरूर दिया जाएगा। लेकिन मैंने आपको एक स्टेटमेंट ऑफ फैक्ट बताई जो कि अभी हाल ही में डायरेक्टर जनरल ऑफ मिलिट्री ऑपरेशंस ने इसके बारे में मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ डिफेंस को आरटीआई के उत्तर में जवाब दिया है।
This response comes after the Director General of Armed Forces replied, as he said, to an RTI query on the issue. The reply also said that the Army conducted one surgical strike in 2016 to avenge the Uri attack. This answer by General Singh is in contradiction with what the Congress has been saying. Remember, the Congress said that 6 surgical strikes were conducted during the 10-year UPA regime. Not just that, Lieutenant General Singh also hailed the Balakot airstrike, saying that this was a befitting reply to the Pulwama terror attack, although the government of the day, the Modi government, says these two aren't related.
Action by the Indian Air Force on 26th of February for carrying out airstrikes on Balakot terrorist infrastructure was indeed laudable. It was a major achievement wherein our aircraft could go deep into enemy territory and strike at the terror launch pads and the camps. The Pakistanis carried out their air operations very close to the line of control on the following day. However, they were given a befitting reply. They dare not try and come anywhere across the line of control to carry out any kind of actions.
Former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh had said, and I quote, multiple surgical strikes took place during our tenure too. For us, military operations were meant for strategic deterrence and giving a befitting reply to anti-India forces, then to be used for vote-garnering exercises. 2 weeks ago, the Congress president also said that surgical strikes were conducted during the UPA rule. Now, this revelation has caused a major embarrassment to the Congress party. The BJP has been questioning their claims Accusing the party of lying, Union Minister VK Singh took to Twitter to question when and where the Congress conducted such strikes. National security, remember, has been a major poll plank of the BJP throughout the campaign. The Prime Minister has ridiculed the UPA's claims on surgical strikes. He even called them video games. Do you think the BJP would be hoping that this comment had come a few days earlier?
I really find this pathetic because, first of all, it took Congress a lot of time before they start up their surgical strikes. And then they put poor Manmohan Singh in the front and made him sort of claim this thing. When, as I said, the biggest surgical strike was by Lal Bahadur Shastri in 1965. And Congress could have easily said, listen, we are the godfathers of surgical strikes. Who are you talking to? But Lal Bahadur Shastri is not a family man. So he can't have done anything good. So they did not claim that. But that was the biggest surgical strike.
I was very surprised by Manmohan Singh's statement. It didn't tally with what I'd understood. It depends, of course, what you mean by a surgical strike. There's no precise definition of that. But if you mean a sizable commando operation across the line of control, well, I didn't pick up very much talk of that during the UPA government. And what was achieved after the Uri attack was different in nature. How effective and successful it was is a different matter, but Indian commandos crossed the line of control. And that was an important statement. And in a sense, it paved the way for Balakot. So a much more vigorous response after the suicide car bomb attack in
Right. The other thing is the politicization of the army that many have questioned. And many army veterans also wrote to the president seeking his intervention, asking him to stop such comments and such statements. But when former army chiefs go on to join political parties and become ministers, and then statements like these come, do you think politicization is inevitable?
Yes, I do. Particularly in a democracy and one like India, it is probably going to be inevitable. What amazes me is if these earlier surgical strikes had happened, how information didn't leak on that. And I was in the U.S. government, and I listened to that with some trepidation as well about whether or not it happened. And I think it gets to your point, which is a very important point, is how do you define intervention of that kind? Is it a few troops going across the border? Because that happens all the time along the line of control in Kashmir. Or how big does it have to be? Or does it have to be by plane to do it? And so it'd be interesting to have, and this will happen, people are going to look into this issue, is what were these 6? But that's the really important one, is one that didn't happen at the time of the Mumbai attack.
Yes.
That's the one that everybody points to, that the government of Manmohan Singh did not respond in that case, even though there was enormous pressure to do so, including a poll that was taken in India today afterwards that showed the overwhelming majority of the Indian people said, we have to strike back.
Yes.
And they didn't. And that issue has come up again.
And yet, fortunately or unfortunately, they won the election after that.
Yes.
So, as I said yesterday, there's no correlation, but national security is an issue. I'm completely out of time. I quickly want to take your comment on this.
No, I'm going to say that what this government did is both quantitatively and qualitatively far, far above anything that we'd seen. Because they not only crossed the line of control, they crossed the international border, you see, and this kind of boldness, how effective they were, how many people they neutralized, what are the facts, you might debate that. But that, strike in that sense was, I think, incredible, and it sent a message. Should they have politicized it? I don't think so. I think, acts speak louder than words. They could have shown some restraint, and I think this whole tom-tomming of the army isn't such a good idea. I think they should be kept separate. But all is fair in love and war and Indian politics, it would seem, or Indian elections at any rate. So
this is a democracy.
It's a democracy, so who's to say?
In China, you could do that and keep it quiet because it's an authoritarian system. You cannot do it. This is one of the prices of democracy that we have to live with.
With that comment, I think we'll wrap. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. And we're looking forward to result day. Of course, that's the 23rd. And until then, we'll see which way things are going, who's meeting whom, how the political scene in India develops. Thanks very much for joining us. This is India Election Watch. See you tomorrow.